Hi there, this is David and welcome to today's sponsored video brought to you by Solvars and being released as part of the Steam Next Fest this week. And sponsorship aside, I've just got to say that in my time with this game, I had such a fun time. It reminded me like a ton of those older deck-building, card-based RPGs that were in vogue about 20 or so years ago, back when I was in college. And then it even reminded me a lot more of some kind of like esoteric RPGs, things like Riviera the Promised Land, or that criminally underrated duology of Sword of Hope back on the original Game Boy. So I do think that you are definitely in for a treat here today. Solvars is a classic JRPG with a modern twist. To release for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, DMM Player, Steam, and the Epic's Game Store over on June 27th. Inspired by modern hits and classics from the 90s such as Crosscode, Jack Move, Mega Man Battle Network, and all those timeless Square Enix hits back on the SNES, this one is not to be missed. And be sure to head on over and wishlist it today. The links to do that are all in the video description. If you've heard of this game before, that's because it was an absolute hit over on mobile. Originally released back in January of 2022, it soared up the rankings on both Google Play and the Apple App Stores, and there it continues to garner much-deserved critical acclaim. But now console gamers like me and you can finally play it on the big screens, along with enhanced UI and native intuitive controller support. And you know me, controller support is a big deal. If I can't play it with controller, then I'm pretty much just not going to play it at all. So I was super happy to see that it was offered here. And it's also been localized into 12 different languages so people all over the world can enjoy it too. The world immerses you into a game that blends the best of two worlds: stylish pixel art animations along with dynamic turn-based tactical planning. Taking place in a futuristic world where the over-reliance on technology has led to the emergence of like grotesque dominators bent on the destruction of humanity, all the people cower in fright. To counter that Dominator offensive, the next generation of humans were born with alternate souls, and those humans are now known as an elite squad of units called Soul Bearers, and they work around the clock to intercept and counter the attacks from the Dominators. So you play as Yakumo, a freelance Soul Bearer, and he handles the assignments from the private elite military Dominator Disposal Organization. And he's joined by two other elites, the suited up and mysterious martial artist Genzu, and that happy-go-lucky lancer, Azuna. Together, the three of you will go forth to uncover the dangers of unchecked technology, the origins of that Dominator Disposal Organization, and the conspiracies behind the emergence of the Dominators. You'll find yourself exploring intricately designed dungeons filled to the brim with treasures, secret passages, switches, puzzles, and obstructions. But these aren't your usual dungeons, and if you've played something akin to the aforementioned Riviera the Promised Land or the Sword of Hope, then you know what you're getting yourselves into here. But if you haven't, please let me explain. The dungeons are all made up of a series of interconnected rooms, and you can kind of think of them like the traditional Phantasy Star dungeons. And here is where all the action takes place. I was immediately taken aback to some of those retro games of my youth, because this is just lightning quick. Nowadays, it can kind of take like hundreds of hours to complete an RPG because of just how bloated, sprawling, and vast all the fields are, but this is such a more simpler retro throwback. And as a busy adult who doesn't have like a year and a day on their hands, I appreciated this more simplistic approach to exploration, which really does allow you to get in and out, look around, with very little muss and fuss. To help you navigate, there is a mini map in the upper left-hand corner. Holla frickin' Luya, I love a good mini-map. And in addition to that, if you hit the L button, a larger map will appear on the screen, and that shows all of the rooms on your floor, as well as which rooms you've previously explored. They get highlighted in yellow, and this greatly helped to streamline the process, because I remember, like as a kid, getting out my graph paper and mapping the dungeons of Phantasy Star and Sword of Hope, and I am so thankful that I don't have to do that here. Not only will you find the aforementioned treasures, vending machines, and NPCs around these rooms, but you'll also encounter side quests. And it's really up to you whether or not you want to complete them, but helping out the inhabitants of this blighted world did put a smile on my face. Thankfully, you're not stumbling around in the dark either, because all boss battles are telegraphed. Before you enter a screen with a boss, you're going to get like a little pop-up message saying, there's a powerful presence ahead, and do you want to proceed? And that is your cue to save your game and update your characters and enhance their equipment. So now, let's get on into that, as well as the battle system. At its core, this is a deck-building turn-based RPG with that modern twist, and you can choose to battle at 3 different difficulty levels. There's easy, normal, and hard. All of your cards dealt to you are known as soul bits, and each turn you're going to be dealt 5 different soul bits, though you can only use as many soul bits as you have AP for. And each turn you'll get an extra AP, but you can also gain AP more by exploring weaknesses, executing combos, and dealing critical hits, among other things. You can have up to a total of 5 different APs per turn, and then you're going to want to combine all your soul bits together in such a way that executes devastating combos and hundreds of breathtaking moves. Enemies' HPs and stats are clearly shown on the screen in order for you to easily strategize and plan out your moves. If an enemy is weak to a particular attack, you'll see a yellow up arrow. However, if they are resistant to it, you'll see a purple down arrow. And if they're immune, a purple X. So the key here is to diversify your characters as much as humanly possible to cover as many different attacks and combinations as you can. The battles here are quick and deeply strategic, and one really cool addition that I loved were the status effects. If you're inflicted by like poison or something, it's not just simply an HP drain on you, but the effect actually takes the place of a soul bit, and it's dealt on the right hand side of the deck, and then it will slowly move over to the left as you use up the cards in the ring. And if it heads all the way to the left hand side before it's cured, then that poison's going to end up dealing double damage to you. This really made me think about status ailments and not just kind of like ignore them like I do in some other games. There's also the burst gauge, and it would really behoove you to burst your enemies as quickly as possible. The more weaknesses that you hit and the more combinations that you pull off, the higher the burst gauge will go, and whenever it hits 100%, the enemies will be momentarily stunned, they'll have their turn skipped, and they'll also lose quite a bit of their stats. So with all these systems going on, the battles are high speed and dynamic, and each enemy is a puzzle to solve and a challenge to overcome, as you go ahead and identify their weaknesses and combine your soul bits together to unleash your powerful finishing moves. But you might be wondering, how do you get more soul bits? Well, that's based upon your equipment. Not only does each item carry stats of their own, but each of them will also grant you different soul bits to use in battle too. Here you can also implant your equipment with different mods to boost your stats or further increase your repertoire of soul bits. The more you fight with the soul driver, the more synchronized to you it becomes. And you know how you learn more spells the more that you leveled up your materia? Well, it's similar here. But instead of spells, you're going to be unlocking stat raises, abilities and passives, and then you're going to have to use your soul fragments to learn those abilities that your drivers have. As you explore all the dungeons, you're going to be hunting down some unique dominators who hold rare and powerful equipment that will help you master the ultimate arts and get the ultimate soul bits too. All told, I had a really fun time and a nice little blast from the past with this roughly 15 or so hour journey through Solvars, which is available again on June 27th for the Nintendo Switch, PS4 and 5, Xbox One X and S, DMM Player, Steam, and Epic's Game Store. And if you like what we've seen here, please follow those links below in the video description to wishlist it today. So that's it for today's spotlight on Solvars. What do you think about the game? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video and want to join the channel, please consider following me over on Twitter, supporting me on Patreon for exclusive videos and early access to my content, heading on over to Twitch for some stream fun, or coming on over to my Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them all can be found in the video description. This has been David, and if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.